right, we are live. I am Flux of fluxwithit.com, and this is the producer's hangout. This is actually episode 15. I have it labeled 16 right now because I was sidetracked at the moment. Joining with me today is Silent Cypher, Mike from padbangers.com. Mike, say what's up.
What's up, guys? Looking forward for the show. Let's have some fun here.
Okay, Mike, and we've got Kev West of KevWestBeats.com.
What up?
Gaming enthusiast, generally he's been kind of scarce lately, but he's here. So, Kev, how you been?
I'm always around. I just ain't been saying much. Ain't been much to talk about.
Gotcha. And joining us as a late entry to the show, just in the nick of time, is Pete Marriott. Pete, how you doing? All right, let me hear you say something. Hopefully your mic is set up. Usually when we have somebody doing the show late,
we were having some audio problems. He wasn't here for sound check.
Yeah, he wasn't here for sound check, but that's okay because it's actually going to roll. Oh, I hear him. So it's actually going to roll right into some of our topics. So today I'm gonna list some of the topics right up front. That way people kind of know what we're getting into. So we're going to talk about when having enough gear is enough and how much is enough and how much do you actually use of your gear. We're also going to talk about making your dollar stretch, and there's something else that we were going to talk about. Did I cover that? Yeah, and synth porn, of course. So jumping right into it, the first thing I want to get into is we're doing something a little bit special, a little bit different for this episode. Because, as we mentioned, we were having audio technical difficulties right before we started the show. One of those problems that we were having is the fact that my mic wasn't working. And I'm troubleshooting the mic, so, I'm testing. The lav mic has a battery. I'm testing that. That's fine. I'm testing the channels. Everything is fine. Everything seemed to be working okay with it. I tested it on another piece of gear. That was fine. So I narrowed it down to the cable. Cable wasn't working, even though it was a brand new cable. So this cable is kind of specific because it's a lav mic, so it's a little 1/8-inch connector going to XLR. Problem is I only have one of these with me right now. So I figured rather than kind of hide the issue, I would go live on the air right now and show you how I'm going to fix my mic. So I'm going to move the camera a little bit, and this is something that everybody should have in their studio. A third hand, right, and a soldering iron. So
move your camera down a little bit.
You want me to angle it down just a bit down here?
Just a little bit more. There we go.
There we go. Is that better?
Yeah.
So yeah, what happened is hopefully you guys can see this. This little piece right here is broken off. Maybe I should put something a little bit clear behind it so you can kind of see it a little bit better. Do you see how that's broke? You see what I mean? So this guy right here is supposed to connect to this pin right here. And that's how it makes the audio connection across there. And it's broken. So I'm going to fix that real quick and easy. It's not a difficult fix. So you get a soldering iron, you heat that bad boy up, and I'm going to just kind of place it right on here, melt the solder back into place. It's a good idea to kind of clean your pins when you're doing this kind of stuff. Kind of clean it up a little bit. And the real key here is, if possible, to heat the pin as opposed to the wire itself. So I'm going to fix this, if I can get it to stick. Sometimes you got to just bend your solder around a little bit, throw some extra solder on there. Get on there. And essentially this is going to be a way for me to not have to run out to the store and buy another mic cable, which hopefully this thing isn't too dirty, because the pins look pretty dirty, and I'm willing to bet that that's why it broke, is because the soldering connection was made on a dirty pin, which, yeah, it's still pretty dirty. So when that happens, what I'm going to do is try not to burn myself, because this sucker's hot right now, and just kind of scour it a bit here. is, if possible, to keep
I hear myself.
as opposed to the wire itself.
Somebody should mute that. I blame Marriott because he wasn't here for sound check, so I'm guessing it's him.
It was. I apologize.
That's okay. So, let me ask you guys, do you guys ever get into having to fix your own gear, or you ever deal with any sessions where you need to fix things on the spot?
Nah, I didn't. I would probably burn down the house. I'm not good in soldering or any of that stuff.
Same here. Besides that, when I started out, I never even considered anything like that. So I have a nice big tote full of cables that I've had for about 10 years. One cable breaks, I just grab another one.
Exactly.
Well, I'll say that usually, like, when I'm fixing gear, it's because I either broke it on purpose or I was just doing something absolutely ridiculous. See, look,
Basically, you have destructive habits.
Yeah. And this thing is actually breaking more and more every second. So, it's actually falling apart on me here.
So it's time for a new cable.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a shame because this is actually like a brand new cable, which clearly is not the best built cable. And really, is what it is.
Should have bought them monsters. Not really.
Yeah.
I used to solder back in junior high school workshop class.
Yeah, a lot of the times what I use my soldering iron more for is building gear, like building synthesizer kits or circuit bending, things of that nature. And let's see if we get this thing heated up enough. She does not want to take. It's on there. Alright, now I gotta fix the other piece that broke off. I do a lot of kits for modular synthesizers, which I'll be having. I have some videos up on my YouTube, the YouTube / or is it / or /? I don't know. I guess it's / YouTube / Flux302, and you'll see I build like lots of these synthesizer kits and stuff. And I've got videos where I, go through the whole build and everything. And I find that that's a way to really kind of save yourself a lot of money as far as studio gear is concerned, because it can really get pretty pricey, buying all kinds of gear. And if you can, just spend a few minutes with a soldering iron and save yourself a buttload of cash, why not do that,
Especially get them longer cables. That you could easily have to replace an $80 cable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you another thing. I think people get intimidated by soldering. It's really not as difficult as it appears on the outside. That should do it. It's an ugly connection, but it should work. And I'll probably touch it up a bit more after the show. But it should make my mic work, and I should be able to get a much better connection now. Hopefully. I'm positive.
Don't break it again.
I got positive hopes. So, let me see if I can put this back on without burning myself. So this is just a regular XLR connector, and you slide the pieces back together. And where did I put the cap? Here it is. So here's the cap. It goes on, just like so. And you screw it on. And if I'm lucky, I'll have fixed my mic. So let's go over here to my mixer. Plug this bad boy in and see if I can lift my camera up again. Okay. So, let's see what we got. Where did I throw it? There we go. I'm going to plug this in over here. And we're going to take the lav mic and plug it in. Check 1, 2. Let's hope. Turn this down. Let's see if I got some power here. If I'm lucky, it'll work. If I'm not, it won't.
Check, check, check.
I think you're good.
Testing, testing. No, well, I haven't switched over yet. Check,
Okay.
check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2. I should be getting sound out of my monitor set up here, which so far sounds unsuccessful with me. I would expect to be getting something out of this, but I'm not. So, most likely, she's not working. I blame Pete Marriott and Kev West.
Oh, sure. Blame the 2 black guys in the room.
That's what I do. So, while I'm kind of fiddling with this, and we're kind of moving on with the show topics, something that I wanted to talk about was just how much gear you have in the studio, and how much is actually needed. How much are you using? You know, do you find yourself in a situation where you're just buying gear just because there's new gear out, or are you pretty restrained with it? And one of the reasons why I'm bringing it up is because lately I've been seeing a lot of posts about Serum, a new synthesizer that's out, and I've recently gotten some new gear to test, and I find myself not always using some of the gear that I've spent good money on. So I wanted to get you guys' opinions on when is enough enough.
When you have everything you actually feel you need. Like, I've said it a few times, I think 2014 has been a really bland, boring year for production. That's why I haven't been making as many videos, doing as much, spending some time with. Because, like, right now I'm using Machine, Sample Tank, Trillion, and Omnisphere, and I'm good. I haven't opened any of my complete synths in months. I haven't opened what you call Contact since I've gotten Sample Tank, and I just don't see that changing. You know, I open Sample Tank up a few times a week, but nothing else really outside of that in Omnisphere.
Now, Pete, so you're a guy who, when you tend to do your albums, you go out to studios a lot, and you're working with other people's gear as well as your own, correct? Both outboard gear for processing and production, or how are you working that? Oh, is he muted? I can't hear him. Oh, he's got it.
He's fixing it. Come to sound check.
We should retitle this episode the episode of audio difficulty.
Oh yes.
I attempted to switch to my lab mic.
Oh, okay.
So that's what happened. Yeah, for the past few months, I've returned back to, working out of different facilities again, because working out of your home, just for me personally, is boring. I like to be around people. I'm a people person, so I'm part of a collective called Subatomic, and basically everyone who's a member has contributed their equipment to the main studio. So, for instance, I took a bunch of my rack gear, my compressor limiters, a pair of digital samplers, my effects units. I think one of my patch bays is over there as well. So, and there's a wealth of stuff over there, preamps, lots of microphones, guitars like crazy, Mm-hmm. So, for me, at home, I have a whole bunch of stuff that I still would like to, take over there. It's just a matter of time and everything.
So basically what I'm getting at is when you're going over there to work with this other gear and all, do you find that it's a situation where you're doing it because you don't have access to it, or you're doing it, because you're just, over there with it? You know what I mean? Like, You might have plenty of synthesizers or whatever at your studio as it is, your current production setup, and might not even use half of them. But you go to another studio and you might be inspired to use 3 other ones that either you have or don't have.
Yeah, it's pretty much more so the latter situation that you mentioned, because like here at home, I can't mic up a drummer and record them. You know what I mean? Like I can over there. So yes, I'm gonna want access to like tube pre's and whatever compressors that I want to use at the moment to get the type of drum sound that I want. It's just, but there's some cases where I would prefer to mix certain elements here at home, and there's certain elements that I want to mix over there. So I do like partial mixing here, because remember, mixing now is just it's all programmable. So it's not like the old days where you had a huge floppy disk and all you're doing is you're just getting the settings for the faders and the mute buttons. So now it's like everything that you set, it's there. So that's all it is pretty much. You gotta excuse me, I just had a very nice spliff, so.
Yeah.
Gotta love that it's legal here, right?
You see, so Mike, you're another guy who gets a lot of gear for review, and also just has access to a vast majority of gear that you either don't necessarily buy for direct usage, or you have a plethora of gear that you can have access to. Do you find yourself saying enough is enough, and you just got to the point where you're only going to use a specific amount of gear, or do you find yourself constantly challenging yourself with new gear, or how do you handle that?
For me, it's a two-sided sword, because I always like to get new stuff, but I'm not a hoarder. So if I get stuff for review and for software, if I can keep it, that's cool, but that not necessarily means that I really use the stuff. Maybe I like it for 1 or 2 weeks, but then I go back to software I know better, and I don't have to spend so much time to really know it. But what I realized is I have enough software. So I would not spend any money on software at the moment, because I just don't feel myself I just don't like software at the moment. I want to get more hardware, and that's always the thing. So enough is never enough, probably, for me, but I always switch direction. So at the moment, I have all the software I need, and I also have the feeling everything that's coming out is not. It's not really a game changer anymore. There might be some nice additions to stuff you have, but basically it's pretty much the same. For if it's for software synthesizers and stuff like that. There might be a little better emulation than there was before, but at the end, stuff you used for a long time, in and out, and you use the stuff that works fast and efficiently for you. But if you watch the producers Hangout Facebook group or the Machine Music group, you saw me posting some videos where I was performing like live with my gear, like some drums on machine and some synth I programmed, and that's the way I want to go at the moment. So I'm really looking forward for more hardware and going away from the computer and looking to the screen and using the mouse and stuff. I want to turn knobs and have that.
Pause.
Pause?
You can't pause it. You can't pause somebody who English isn't their first language. That's not fair.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
blame the German for not being native speaker.
I'll say that my thing is that I'm kind of the opposite. I am a hoarder, completely and totally.
If we could,
You really are? I couldn't tell that from the studio you're in. I would say you're getting rid of everything you don't use.
but here's the thing is that I've learned over the years that I'm much more productive when I keep my plugins cleaner. So if I remove plugins that I'm not using from my list, or at least make them unavailable to see, it speeds up my workflow a lot and makes me just happier when I'm working. Hardware, on the other hand, I'm the exact opposite. Hardware, I like just seeing it because I may, at any given moment, want to grab something and start plugging it in or, playing with it. So I always keep the patch bay open and ready to just jack things in and go to town. But the plugin lists are the exact opposite, where if I have too many in there, I get irritated with it. Just recently, I went through and reorganized my Reactor user library, which had gotten to some ridiculous number. So I went in and kind of categorized everything and put them into separate folders, so that way I could, just kind of weed through it a little bit. But I still find myself, how many wavetable synthesizers do I need? How many synthesizers do I need for bass tones? How many synthesizers do I need for lead tones? It does get to a point where you start having more than what you're actually going to use, or more than you even tonally are going to get that much difference from. And I wonder whether it's wasted time, or I do treat music production, which is both a business for me and a hobby. I tend to treat it both ways. It does kind of tend to blur. So when I'm in business mode for music, I have to focus and say, okay, you're not allowed to go diving down that rabbit hole today. You need to focus on this, and that is what it is. And then there's days where, on the weekend or whatever, I'll say, okay, well, today I can play. And in that case, it's full plug-in lists and it's wires everywhere, and nothing gets done, but I have a lot of fun.
That's actually the reason why, one of the reasons I like In the Box. And like you, I've just been kind of shutting out stuff that I'm not using. Like, I haven't been using many of my machine expansions. Start deleting those. Start deleting VSTs that I just don't use. And I find that now when I actually do want to sit down and make music, I'm getting ideas out, boom, 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 boom. Because I have exactly what I want, and I know what I want, and I know exactly where it's at.
I recently just obtained Spire. And the reason that I got it was because it was suggested to me because, a project that I'm working on, Kev, I spoke to you about it a few days ago. And, I'm just amazed that how I feel about it, because, to me, it's just another software synth.
Right, it's just a basic V8 synth.
But,
when I saw it, I said, I have Zeta.
What you said earlier about Sample Tank, Contact has taken a back seat ever since, Sample Tank 3 came out. I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think a lot of people, when they talk about Sample Tank, they mix up quality and sometimes effectiveness and just usefulness. I won't argue that Contact has better sound libraries for it and has more sound libraries for it. And at times, Contact, because of its expansions, sounds better than Sample Tank. But what Sample Tank gives you are good, solid sounds that you can just sit down and make music with now. And you go boom, 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 get your ideas out quickly. And I don't think there's anything on the market that can match Sample Tank for that.
Yeah,
it's a great songwriting tool. And that's why I love it.
I have to. I personally don't. I don't really care. I don't like, as long as it's useful, I'm using it. And to me, a lot of the sound quality issues are patch dependent. So unless there's something drastically wrong, generally speaking, that's a non-issue. And a lot of the times I'm making my own patches anyway, so, But, for instance, I like both Omnisphere and I like Alchemy. and they occupy a very similar sonic territory and can do a lot of similar things. I would want to lean towards Alchemy because I can add my own samples to it, and as a sound creator, that's more powerful for me. However, I tend to like using Omnisphere more because of the sound library that's in it. So it really depends on the mood that I'm in during that day, and oftentimes I think people nitpick sound quality as far as on a per virtual instrument basis a little too far, because chances are you're going to be post-processing it anyway. Just like when I'm a big analog fan and I love analog filters and all that sound, but I always say when people ask me, oh well, what virtual synth is getting close to that sound or this and that, realistically, if you're not the current user who's sculpting at that moment, chances are if you put a analog synth and a virtual analog synth and then post-process the two and then put them in a mix, it's going to be extremely difficult to tell which is which, because the nuances of those things come out more when you're sculpting as opposed to when you're just listening back. You know what I mean? So the sound quality to me is like, oftentimes it's a moot point for the end listener,
And that's why I like working in the box.
I just want to say, for everyone who ever wondered, you see, me and Kev are not the same person.
Yes. You see those two turntables in the back Pete got? I don't know how to rock those.
I've been out to Seattle. To visit you guys, and I still haven't seen both of you in the same room at the same time, so I fully disagree with that. I just want to go on the record as not believing you guys.
Well, there's about a 20-year age disparity there, so...
Yeah. Hold on, Kev. I'm not...
Yeah, clearly Pete's younger.
I know, right?
So another thing I wanted to talk about was just making your dollar really stretch. And Kev kind of jabbed at me a little bit when I said that earlier, and had said, well, how do you do that if you're on a Mac? And in my opinion, you can do that extremely well on a Mac. You can do that extremely well on a PC. You can do that extremely well with Linux. But
that wasn't meant to be a jab at you. That was really, I just feel Macs for what they offer you are too expensive.
Okay.
From a hardware standpoint,
we can discuss that. I don't want to turn this into a Mac versus PC debate. But
can I say something to that topic?
Sure.
For Kev. I was a PC user. I switched like 1 year before, and I always thought Macs are really, really expensive. And they are when you buy your first Mac. It's a really big amount of money you have to spend. But if you look forward for about, when you sell your Mac in about 4 years, you still get half. You still get half of that price back. So buying a new Mac after a longer decade, you probably have a PC without upgrading. If you have your PC for like 2 years, you need to upgrade certain parts to keep up with the software requirements and stuff. And after 2 or 3 years, you probably get, maybe if you spend $1,000 on your PC computer, you probably get around $100 to $200 back from it. For a Mac, you get, after 3 or 4 years, you get still half of the price back. So buying a new Mac after that decade is not more expensive than buying a new PC, but you have a longer time. Are we talking
about pre-built PCs, or are we talking about built PCs? Because I think where you really get your bang for your buck in PCs.
That doesn't matter. Even if you build your PC yourself, you don't get the money back. And on a longer value, I think Macs are not more expensive than PCs. I don't say, and I don't say they are cheap. Don't get me wrong. It's as I said, it's a huge amount of money for buying the first Mac. But after you have the Mac paid, the next Mac gets a lot cheaper when you compare it to a computer.
I'm gonna let me just say, just as a Mac user, also, I would kind of agree with that, except for the fact that
being a hoarder, I don't sell my old Mac. My old
Okay,
Mac
yeah.
is right at the top of my turntables right now.
Okay,
Because I like to,
that's a point.
I like to have my legacy machine. So all the previous music that I made on when I was in that era of music production is still there, and I can get back to it and not worry about it. And I treat it that way. I treat it the same way that I treat, like for instance, I mainly produce on Machine now. I treat it the same way as my MPC. I'm not selling my MPC, even though I rarely use it. But again, I don't want to get into a Mac versus PC. I think both make music great. As far as money, for me, it made more sense because I didn't like dealing with the individual components of having to make sure that I wasn't having viruses, I wasn't having maintenance, that sort of thing. If you're lazy when it comes to that kind of stuff, I love digging in deep on a lot of different things, be it sound design, wiring, fixing my own crap. But that's one aspect that I don't like to dive into. I don't like having to deal with that kind of stuff. So it made financial sense for me, even though it was a large amount of money. It made sense, but that's less about the topic as opposed to you can get a ton of free plugins on PC. If you know the right places to look, you can get a ton of free plugins for Mac. And I'm talking all 100% legal here. I'm not talking about, that other stuff, which I do not support. But I'll also say that these days, as far as stretching your dollar, there's a lot of companies out there that do things like offer incentives to buy their software if you demo it. Like, for instance, I recently got SynthMaster, and after you demo it for a while, they give you a coupon. And if you haven't bought it by a certain point, they'll give you another coupon. So that, along with there's lots of forums with like deals threads. Muff Wigglers has a buy sell trade thread on it where oftentimes you'll see lots of gear on there. So I'm a bargain hunter when I'm buying gear. Oftentimes when I try to get gear, I very rarely want to pay full price. It's usually a special scenario if I'm paying full price. So with that being said, how are you guys going about getting your bargains?
I think Reason is actually one of the best bargains out there if you grab it. And I'm saying this because Reason 8's coming out next week. If you wait and upgrade, say, like every other version, every 2 versions, unlike a lot of other programs that charge you by the version, Reason charges you one price to go from the last version to the newest version. So you could be on Reason 3 right now, give them $130, and they'll give you Reason 8 and everything that comes with it. I think that is probably one of the best bargains in music production by far.
ImageLine gives you your lifetime of updates for free.
That's true.
And I'm not going to go into the whole FL Studio versus Reason thing because that's like Mac and PC land. Right. But the thing about it is that you're getting that power. You're getting, you know what I mean? It's just as powerful as any other DAW that you can think of. So to me, that is more bang for your buck. I kind of wish like other companies such as Native Instruments, even IK Multimedia, I kind of wish that they did similar things. You buy a particular plugin and you get those updates, for free. Rather than, when you get the whole system, like whether it's complete 9 or 10, which is about to drop, then I can understand the, charging. But as far as individual plugins, if you purchase that, I wish that they did those updates for free because, it gets kind of ridiculous after a while. Like, okay, yes, I dragged my feet on purchasing 9 Ultimate, but, as soon as I purchased it, bam, they announced a few weeks later, 10 is coming, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, you don't get that bang for your buck unless you get.
I
Like
think
I
that's
got complete on day one, so I feel like I got my bang for my buck out of it. But like you drug your feet, you waited a year, and
I
now it's
think
like, oh,
that's a
here's
big
10.
key, man. Is knowing knowing your products and knowing when it's smart times are to buy by looking at patterns. Just like you don't buy an iPhone in the fall before a new iPhone gets announced because a new iPhone is going to be announced. Same with software. These major companies that are known for producing something every year. Use your brain a little and say, okay, well, if there's a major half off sale on some $1,000 product and it's now like, $500, chances are in the next coming months, you're going to see, the next version is coming out. And you can decide, well, it's either worth it for me to get it now at this discounted price, or I'm going to get it at the full price when the new thing drops, or I'm going to wait for it to drop and then go on another sale, Be aware of your market,
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. The only reason I said, because Kevin will tell you, I had numerous of conversations with him about Complete 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my whole thing was like, nah, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But, I saw that 50% off sale. So, yeah, I said, okay, freak it. I know it's going to come around the corner. So let me just jump at it now or whatever. But, it's like I'm not in the rush to get 10. I'm not in the rush to get Studio. I think by the time I'm ready to get Studio 2 will probably be available because, I have a choice to make. Do I let my gear lust overtake me, or do I put out records?
Well, you're still on the Mark 1 machine, aren't you?
No, I decided against buying Machine Studio until, like I said, I have a choice. I can buy this gear, right? Or I can put out records. I choose to put out records.
I was asking, are you still on the original machine?
Oh, yeah. I'm still on the very original Mach 1 machine. So,
and it still works.
It still works.
And that's what's important. I think that's something that we should promote here too. Like just because something new comes out doesn't mean your old one goes away or your old one stops working, or it holds as much value as you give to it. So many people rush out and they get the new thing that comes out day one. And I think I've been very vocal. I'm probably not going to get Complete 10, or if I'm going to get it on a huge discount because to me it's not worth it, and I don't feel that rush, that anticipation to go get it. And I think that's how a lot of these plugins work too. Well, a lot of these tools in general. Like, you can still use the turntable that you've had for like 20 years.
I'll tell you
not going to stop working.
I'll tell you one, Kev, I'm considering. I am considering getting the next version of Pro Tools. Just so I can get the stupid little certification.
Yeah. Well, see, I think that's something else, though, is when you're purchasing gear less to make money and more as like a business investment, and it's not specifically a tool for whatever music you're making. I think that becomes a very specific purchase. You know what I mean? So if you're, for instance, if you're in the trade of being a trainer and you're purchasing, Reason whatever version for that specific purpose, then that's what it is. And oftentimes you're going to get discounts by going directly to the manufacturer and saying, this is why I'm doing it. And oftentimes if you have a conversation with them, depending on what the company is, you can work that out. There's a lot to be said also in the software world for contacting developers directly and talking to them and say, listen, this is what I'm looking to do. Is there anything that, is there any deals? Is there any, be it for whatever the reason being, whether it's, we're working with a church or I'm at this studio and we want to try something out, or, we're teaching a class, whatever it is, there's lots of different reasons for it. People that are making music tools it's oftentimes a rather small industry when you get to know people, and if you're active in that community, you can have a conversation. You'll learn that they're actually people, unlike dealing with some large megacorp, a lot of the times you can actually talk to people and say, this is my situation, is there anything you can do? And a lot of the times they'll work with you. It won't work on everything, but it's certainly an avenue worth pursuing.
That's actually how Spending Some Time With kind of got started. I was doing videos with the software I just had and that I liked. And Excellent Audio was actually the first company to reach out to me and say, hey, we want you to spend some time with these expansions. We want to know what you think about it. Can you use them? Tell us, good, bad, whatever. We just want feedback. We want people to see that these are actually good products. Mm-hmm. And that's how it got started. They contacted me. A couple other companies started contacting me. You know, there are some, you know, I'll reach out to some people. Some of them will say, no, we're not interested. Whatever. Native Instruments. And there are other companies who are all over it. They love the idea. So, like you said, there's people there, and it's about who you talk to.
Yeah,
building those relationships.
And that's how I started, too. I was in a situation where I could not afford software or hardware, and I didn't want to use like cracked software because I don't like it and I think it's wrong. And so I used to do this with my CDs and vinyl too when I was younger, and I don't want to spend that much money on music. I reached out to the artists and say, hey, look, I can write for this and this blog, and I want to review your album. Would you send it to me? And most of the time they said, sure, I do that. And so I got a lot of CDs for free. And, you know, artists really appreciate an honest opinion. And I got the stuff for free. And with software, it's exactly the same. Now, I'm lucky I'm in a situation where I don't have to ask most of the time to people. So people coming to me and tell, hey, we want you to review this. Are you interested in the product? And sometimes I say, yeah, it looks really good. Shoot it over. And sometimes I say, nah, I don't think I would like that, or I don't see myself using this a lot. So I couldn't give you like you know, like an honest feedback because I wouldn't spend so much time with it, and then I just say no. But most of the time, this is how it works. You get your stuff, and you can spend your money on other things you're looking for a long time.
Exactly. What I have a policy of doing too, with spending some time with, is I'll take everything. I'll give everything a shot. And what I tell people is, you know, if I don't like it, I probably won't make a video about it. If there's like little nitpicky things, I'll make a video and I'll talk about it if I think it's just all right. And if I love it, I'll obviously make a video about it. But I also find that, you know, if I don't make a video just outright bashing something, just say I just absolutely hate it, I find it's better to email the company and say, hey, this is what I don't like about it. And, you know, don't put it out there because, you know, that just pisses people off. You know, and then that burns relationships. It was to say a year from now they make something amazing. Well, we don't want you to try that now because you crapped all over our last product.
Yeah, I tend to sometimes I will review products I don't like, or, you know, I'll mention what I don't like, and I'll be open about it, because I do find that I don't want to walk down the path of just not being upfront and honest about things that I don't like. And some companies will be open and listen to you, and some won't. And you know, and I think it's fair game to criticize somebody for something that you don't particularly like, or you find a flaw in a product. I don't feel like there's anything wrong with saying that. Now, if somebody sends me something and it's just, you know, not something that I'm going to use, then yeah, I'm not going to use it. But if it's something that I would want to use, but I don't like it for a particular reason, yeah, I'll say it.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And I'm talking particularly about things that are just not up to par. Like, you know, like, it's just an outright bad product. Those are the ones I don't review. I was like, you know, this is just bad. This is just bad, and this is why it's bad. Like, no, I'm good. As opposed to something where it's like Alchemy. I did a video on Alchemy about a year ago, and I mentioned all the things in the video at the time that I just didn't like about it. That to me is different than just outright making, like, if I can find, like, there's two things I like about it and I hate everything else about it, I'm not going to make that video. It's just negative. It's spread negativity.
What I meant is, I, for example, had a company that asked me to review a hardware EQ, And I said, guys, I never had a hardware EQ here in my studio, so first I couldn't compare it to anything else, and second, I probably wouldn't hear any big difference because my ears are not trained to a hardware EQ. I don't know how it has to sound, you know. And then that's the situation where I say, no, guys, I don't want to review it, because if maybe I get it here and I think, yeah, it sounds good, but people get comments at me like, dude, this thing doesn't sound good. Where did you compare, or what did you compare it to? How can you say it sounds good, because it's just not? And I know what I can review, and of course I can do software. I can use like drum machines and stuff. That stuff I'm familiar with, but I wouldn't review products. Or maybe if somebody sends me an electric guitar, I couldn't review that. So that's the situation where I say, no, thanks guys, but I won't do it.
And so I mean we're pretty far off topic, but you know, as is normal. But I will say other ways of stretching your money in the studio, being some things that I've done is just researching quality quality blogs and quality learning materials. You can find out a lot of things like how to build your own bass traps, how to build your own acoustic treatment, how to make your own wires, how to, you know, there's basically a how-to on just about anything that you would need to do. And if you're not afraid of just, you know, putting a little bit of elbow grease in, you can save yourself a ton of cash. Looking at things like, for instance, Auralex foam, okay, is a really great product. I love it and I use it. But sometimes I don't need to go out and buy a box of it if I have certain materials around. Just understanding how to make foam denser, you know, like more dense and thicken things up, you know, because you'll read about like using certain other materials out there that might not work so well. But if you understand the science behind the sound, you can learn how to do things yourself. You can kind of think about things and say, okay, well, let's say regular mattress foam doesn't have the depth of ridges that I would need, and it's also not as dense as what I would need. Well, why don't you find a way to make the ridges the proper depth, and why don't you find a way to make it more dense, you know, soaking things in paint and you know, thickening them up that way and spraying adhesive on there, things like that. So sometimes I think thinking out of the box just a little bit can go a really, really long way in your studio to help you save money. If you're looking at buying new sample packs, oftentimes there's demos from the producer who made those sample packs where you can get free versions of their packs, you know. Adding up 15 free versions of packs from different things equals out to a full pack, you know. Why not, you know, try things like that? Don't be hesitant to do some scouring, you know. Time is money, sure, but sometimes, you know, what are you really doing when you're sitting on your iPad in the bathroom for a half hour?
Well, we know what you're doing. If you're
hey, now.
half an hour on your iPad.
I'm just trying to get away from the kids, man. Leave me alone.
Well, what I will say is keep in mind, too, you don't need a lot of sound packs. Especially with, you know, stuff these days like Battery and Machine come with these huge libraries of sounds, and a lot of people don't even use the presets. They go right to the free drum samples. They go right to the Machine expansions, you know, or whatever. Check out what comes with it, because a lot of the time, the sounds that come with these guys, and I've been guilty of this for years, they come with really good sounds, but because you overlook them for the third-party stuff, you miss out on a lot of great content. A lot.
That really depends on what you're using. I'm really glad that guys like Flux are out there that doing sound packs that match my taste much better than the stuff that comes with, for example, Battery and stuff. Mm-hmm. They're really good sounds, but that's not sounds I would use in my project. That's not what I'm looking for, and therefore I'm pretty happy that there's so much third-party content out there, so you can just pick whatever your perfect taste is, and yeah.
I would say that I would agree that it does come down to what you're using or to what you're aiming for as far as whether or not the sound packs and things like the presets or the sounds that came with your software are going to work for you. But I mean, I will agree that you do got to look at things like the sheer quantity of sounds that you get with software today dwarfs anything that at least I was used to when I first started producing. When I was using MPC and all, like I didn't have any sample packs or any, like I had to make my own, and that's how I really got into it. Was, I had, like I would work with something like this if I can get it out. Come on. Talk to me now.
He don't like you.
Yeah, well, my MPC is old, so. But yeah, like, this was a huge amount of sounds for me. Like, how much sounds I could fit on one disc was, if I could fit 100 megabytes of sounds, I was like, awesome, Like, when I moved from the little disc to these, I was flipping out, And then if you were lucky, there was a couple of beat discs that were a couple of sample discs that were floating around out there between producers that would kind of get shared, and then we had records and things like that. But nowadays, I started collecting those CDs from Future Music back in the day, and I've got that was like a crazy amount of sounds. But now you buy one sample pack and it blows that whole collection of sounds out the water as far as how many sounds you have. You buy one software instrument, look at Omnisphere. You spend, what is it, like $400 or $500 or something like that, and you get it's gigabytes and gigabytes of sounds. So to pretend like you've heard every single sound source in Omnisphere is unlikely. You know what I mean? Like, how many people are really sitting through and going through all of those sounds? Where sound packs come in is saving you time and energy because they can be more specified. They can be, okay, these sounds are going to have this type of sound to it, and exactly what those sounds are. That's why software like, what they're doing with Complete now, and what they're doing with Machine, and a lot of things with their browsers being, tagging and all that stuff is huge.
Oh yeah, because some libraries are only going to get bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, when somebody sends me a drum library to review, I tell them I don't even want to look at it if it's not set up correctly, because it's just too much to sift through.
Well, I can tell you right now, like the most recent sound library that I've been working on, you're talking 5.5 gigabytes of sounds. I mean, that's a lot of sounds, I mean, so and I sent that to you guys, and the actual samples I've had to divvy up in, kick, snare, hi-hat, that kind of stuff, because if I just left it all as one bulk folder of raw samples, finding what you want to use is going to be impossible,
It is.
Yep.
And that's a time waster,
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and what that leads people to do is just go back to, I know this synth or this sampler or this drum library has this sound that I'm looking for, has these kind of sounds I'm looking for. I just go right to it, so I get the time saver thing you're talking about.
So what I want to do right now is I'm gonna change something if it works.
Uh-oh.
I think I have to. Nah, it's not gonna work yet. I have to unplug it and then plug it back in. Woe is me. So
if the show breaks, it's Ken's fault.
The show's always going to break, and it's always going to be my fault. But I wanted to just say that I did fix that cable. So, yay.
You spent the whole show fixing it for real, though?
Yeah, like, every time I fixed one part, another piece would break, so I'm going to end up cutting that cable short and then redoing all those connections.
Are you using it right now?
I'm trying to switch over to my other interface that I have it plugged into, and it's not showing up. So,
you have to tell your ass to Sam Ash, Screw Guitar Center. I'm selling my Screw Guitar Center tirade. It's been almost a year.
I got something from there the other day, which is that I've bought anything from there in a while.
Sure.
That was loud. But yeah,
Sweetwater.
You know what I like to do is whenever I go there, I just go directly to their used stuff. Oh my god, let me turn it down. I'm trying to hurt myself. So I went down. I got this little crappy. I shouldn't say crappy because I honestly haven't used it enough to know how good it is. But I got this little Ibanez Lo-Fi distortion pedal, which is apparently it's a distortion pedal with analog high pass and low pass filtering on it. So I'll be running some drum, and it has the reason why I grabbed it is it has guitar, drum, and mic modes on it, so you can run different things through it. And I really just got it because it was dirt cheap, and I wanted to play with something new because I'm a hoarder. And worst case scenario is I take it apart and I circuit bend it, right? Which is what the soldering irons are for. But yeah, oftentimes I really don't. I don't buy anything expensive there anymore. Like I tend to find other ways to get things like better deals. But I mean, their sales aren't bad. They oftentimes will have interesting little sales.
Sometimes, occasionally.
Oh,
they send me their ads. No matter how to tell them to stop.
For anybody that is looking for new sales or is thinking about buying software, Black Friday is around the corner, and that's usually a time where all the companies have huge discounts. We had great discounts last year. Native Instruments had 50% on Complete. IK Multimedia had great sales with their total free bundle. So if you're now thinking about buying new software, I would wait. If you can wait, I would do it for like 2 more months, and you probably will get it a little cheaper.
Applied Acoustic Systems probably has the best Black Friday sales out there. These are the guys that make Lounge Lizard, where you can usually get like their entire collection. It's like a $600 library. You can usually get it for like $100-$200. F Expansion usually has some really good ones too. Everybody knows Native Instruments 50% off. But I want to talk about those two guys too because they make great software. We can't hear you, Flux. They make great software, and they're usually great discounts for Black Friday. And F Expansion is usually the rest of the year.
I just gotta say quickly that FX Expansion, yo, they are killing it, my man. That's all I gotta say.
Yes.
They are
did you try that Bloom that I was telling you about? That delay?
No.
Oh, I love that delay.
Oh, yeah. I got that. What am I talking about? No, yeah, I got that. I'm talking about, they just did an update for the Mod Squad for the Synth
Squad?
Oh, yeah. Jeez. Gosh, man.
Oh, I haven't even checked for it. I have the
What, DCAM Synth Squad got an update?
Yeah, they did an update not too long ago, and I was just like, yo.
I have to check that out.
I haven't. I have to look that up as well.
I'm on
so
the
you guys
website
can
right
hear me
now,
right? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so I'm on the lav mic now. I fixed it. Yay!
Awesome.
it took entirely too long, but that's okay.
What did you do to get yours going?
I had to resolder it. I had to solder the connection. I broke the wire, so I had to. That's
You've
why
been soldering this whole episode.
Well, no, I only had to solder it 3 times.
Only.
Listen, don't judge me, all right?
Too late.
I'm a penny pincher when it comes to gear, because seriously, who wants to spend money on a lav mic cable when you can spend money on
New synthesizer?
Yeah. So,
I hear you.
and hey, it's always good to have more practice for when you're soldering up this stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask you guys before we end the show a bit about the group. We've been kind of talking ever so lightly about music projects for the group, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to put you guys all on the spot and ask which of you guys are going to be involved when we put together a musical project for the group in helping us choose the best tracks. we're choosing the best tracks, and we're all going to pool our resources together to put this out with the best backing as possible. But I wanted to throw everybody in front of the bus here a little bit because I don't want it being all left up to me. So
you become the pseudo leader, so it is automatically up to you. You see how that works?
Yeah. So we're going to be listening to an awful lot of tracks, but we are going to get information out to the group shortly about kind of collating all this music and getting it together.
One question.
Sure.
Which group are you talking about?
The Producers Hangout.
Okay.
No, not the other group. The Producers Hangout. That's no one knows about that.
It's called secret for a reason.
Yeah. That's the ham.
It's so we can keep your FL Studio memes out of there.
Yeah.
I was just trying to figure out if it was Machine Movement or Producers Hangout.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. I'm sure.
I thought it was a joke group.
Nice save. One other thing I did want to mention about is MIDI controllers real quick. I wanted to know if anybody else in this group is feeling the frustration that I am feeling when it comes to manufacturers not creating what you would think would be obvious needs in the marketplace. Do you guys find yourself searching for gear, like searching for MIDI controllers and gear, like just going through every product that's out there, just trying to find something that you think this shouldn't be that hard to find?
I used to.
Yep.
I used to. I've been on the iRig keys. I was on there. I got that about a year ago. And I got the Pro, and I haven't looked at another controller since then. Like, it's the perfect size for me. It's 37 keys, full-size keys. It'd be nice to have knobs on it, but for the most part, I'm good. I haven't been this happy with the controller since I had MPK. I loved those MPKs by Akai. But those are the only two MIDI controllers. A little bit with the M-Audio Oxygens that I've ever really been satisfied with.
How about you, Mike?
I'm still looking for the perfect MIDI controller, and I'm looking for it for.
I'm sorry. I just want to say I'm sorry because I know where this is going.
No, that's good, man. I'm getting over it. I hope so. No.
Did you want to send a shout out to Moog real quick and just?
Oh yeah. I hate you guys.
You still waiting on that sub?
I'm still waiting for my sub 37. It's so frustrating. There are more and more YouTube videos every day, and there are still no shops in Europe that have them available. And I think the estimated shipping time is now the 2nd of October. And if you guys shift it one more time, I'm gonna cancel my pre-order. It's 6 months now. It's ridiculous. Wow. It's ridiculous. No, but what I want to
Dave Chappelle skit, the one with the couch. You're saying that about your synth right now.
Yeah. No, but I'm still looking for the perfect MIDI controller, and I'm with you. It's really frustrating. I have my Studio Logic MIDI keyboard right here, and it's kind of perfect, but it's missing octave buttons to switch the octaves, which I can't understand, which is standard. And there's always something I'm missing. I used to love the Behringer BCF 2000 fader controllers, but you only can run them in Mackie mode, and in Studio One you just can't assign all the functions to the knobs because there's no editor for Mackie Control Protocol. So that's another frustrating thing. So there's really no perfect controller that I can use.
What about MIDI Learn?
You can't use MIDI Learn with Mackie Control. That's the thing.
Oh no, I was thinking leave it in standard mode and then MIDI Learn.
Then the automated faders.
Yeah, it's not gonna. Yeah, so.
Because then when you need more than 8 faders, you're screwed.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not using the bank switch stuff and all that. So what I would think would be a really good idea is like a modular MIDI controller. so you can replace different parts with it.
Well, there
I
is
think
there is some of those out there. Who is it? Livid makes one.
is it really modular, or are they
Yes.
just like different things you
It's
can hook
not
up?
only is it modular, but it's Eurorack standard also. Like,
Oh,
you can
okay.
actually, they have ones where you can do dual power supplies, so you can have controls and you can put, analog modular synth modules in there as well.
Now,
Along with,
let me ask you, do they have a module with automated faders?
that's the thing I have not seen. I don't believe
Yeah.
that they do. And really, getting back to that is the form factor to me, even on those, isn't really what I find all that interesting. Um, I've Me personally, I get thoroughly frustrated because the MIDI controllers that I want, I hate the idea of knobs not being by scribble strips or a screen, right? Like, I like, one of the reasons why I like machines so much is because the knobs and the screen are right there. So anytime you map a knob, it tells you what it is right there. Same way with the original Novation SL series. I used to have one of those, and they had scribble strips under each one. Then when they updated it, they moved it to only one scribble strip, and then they had a set of faders off to the side, and that killed it for me. I said, well, I won't be buying that. Um, I really feel like, these synth manufacturers, they put all this R&D into the design effort, and I understand from a technical aspect moving screens and what sort of problems that poses, both power-wise and also, internally. I understand those problems. I've had talks with developers about it, but it doesn't matter. No, like, to me, MIDI controllers, you got to have scribble strips, you got to have knobs that can update, or motorized faders that work properly, and yeah, I am just absolutely flabbergasted at how much R&D goes into a lot of the different products that are out there right now. And they come close. They promise to get to a certain plateau, and they never reach it. And then after like 6 months or a year goes by, they just kind of back away from that whole original promise. Like, looking at some of the most spectacular things that have come out. Be it Machine, be it Ableton Push, be it what's the M Audio series with their knobs, the Axioms that had the pro mapping in those, the
Axiom Pro.
yeah, the MPK lines, all of those, they all seem to like promise to get to a certain amount of usability to where you won't have to look at your computer and you can just instantly do things, and then they miss the mark and they fail miserably because they don't do obvious things.
So let me
I
ask
just
you
had
guys
to
this.
vent.
Let me ask you guys this, and maybe this. I think this is part of the reasons why I love the Irie keys so much, because I find myself using my machine more and more for everything.
Well, yeah,
Like,
but that's the thing. Is like you're talking about, just a strictly key controller, and that's fine. But when, if you're someone who needs knobs away from just the machine controller, and even then, realistically, because there's a lot that machine still can't quite do, especially when
right.
dealing with external gear.
Yes.
And same with the MPC Renaissance, MPC Studio. Same with Ableton Push. There's all these. They each have these things that they're good at, and then there's these massive gaps in what they're not good at.
Mm-hmm.
And it is just so frustrating to me to think of. I want to say like one of the first MIDI controllers that had the knobs that you could just instantly get up and running was the Fat Boy, I think it was called. This is going way back, and it was just a simple controller with knobs that just worked right away. And ever since then, since that day, like 20 years ago, we've still been trying to get controllers that just work, and nobody's done it. I mean, I don't like using Automap, to be perfectly honest with you. Automap with Novation, Automap with M Audio, neither one of them makes me happy.
They don't make sense a lot of the time.
Machine gets close, It does a lot right, but it still does a lot wrong. But even so, like, why not just make me controllers that I can have scribble strips on, underneath each knob, so I can make, give me 16 knobs on a controller or more. Let me be able to bank through it and have scribble strips for everything. I look at things like the Nectar, which is great, but it again, the knobs are over here, the screen is over here. You know what I mean? Like this stuff to me is just.
Or it could be worse. It could be like that. What's it, that the K controller, the new Native Instruments controller coming out with Complete 10.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Where the screen is basically obsolete. Well, like they tried to make everything that made Machine awesome, and put it in a keyboard and completely missed the mark.
I feel like it's almost good, like, but it's begging for an MK2 already, and it's like not even out.
It's not even out yet. What I love about this though is they're taking all of its features and putting it in Machine. Thank you for that, Native Instruments.
Well, yeah, but to me, like, my main issue with that whole concept is, so it's obviously geared at users who don't have Machine. It
Right.
basically is the complete, the mixer window of Machine, but for a keyboard user, and with no sequencing, and a lack of a lot of things. Like, you can't load effects into it and things like that, which blows my mind. But even so, like, even if that whole layout is really nice in that, it's fairly slim, and I love the LED lighting on it and all, but it gets to a point where, you have the scribble strips, but you have very limited amount of information there. The other button controls on there are very limited, and I don't think we've seen anything as far as how well it works with external plugins.
I don't think it's.
I don't think it does any kind of auto mapping for external plugins. Non-Native Instruments plugins, and that offends me.
Yeah, let's say it's Native Instruments. I'm pretty sure that they don't.
Yeah, see, and that kills it for me. That kills it for me. And in all honesty, the price point for what it is it's not horrible, but it's also not a deal. You know what I mean?
It's not competitive at all.
At this point, I'm looking more towards buying a Nectar than I am the Complete control.
I have to say, compared to the hardware, I think they're not too pricey, because you got a Studio Logic keypad, which is really, really high quality. You got the screens, and if the overall quality is like a Machine with a really good keypad, I don't say it's a bang for the buck, but I don't say it's too expensive. I think the price is,
and that's what I'm saying is like I'm not offended by the price, but at that price point you have to look at all the options on the table. And when I start doing that, I look at things like Nectar, which is going to have all these Complete Instruments mapped as well, and it's going to have all these third-party things mapped out for me. But then I lose the fact that the way the scribble strips are done. So we get back to there seems to be no perfect controllers out there. And yes, I understand that, like, designing a controller, you have to take so many different use cases into account, but I don't feel like that's an impossible task. And with the kind of backing that somebody like Native Instruments, Akai, all these major companies out there have, it's surprising that they still seem to be able to miss the mark when it's, you would think that you have so many users screaming in your face saying, hey, do this, do this, do this. Mm-hmm. Does it happen? What's up, Pete?
I personally believe that you're never going to have the perfect MIDI controller, no matter how close or how far away. And you just mentioned one of the reasons that, no matter how many people are, giving feedback and saying, like, hey, this is what I need, whatever, it's just never going to happen. And I'm going to tell you why. Number one, money. Money. Because, the number one thing is that, these guys, they stay in business by keeping you as consumers continuously buying and buying and buying and buying. So it's not in their best interest to develop something that's perfect or close to perfect, you know, in a quick amount of time. And I'm sure they have the capability to do it. It's just never going to happen.
Well, the thing is that I look at as technologies move forward and become more affordable. I tend to feel that more interesting layouts are to come in the very near future. For instance, the touch faders that are on the Dave Smith Instruments synths and also are now on the Native Instruments control. I think those things are a great step towards doing automated faders in a affordable way. I don't like the idea of replacing a pitch and mod wheel with them, but and I do like physical faders more. But physical motorized faders are known for having a lot of problems, such as noise, such as having issues with, you know, cost and being bulky, you know, things like that. But with a lot of these touch and capacitive technologies becoming a lot cheaper now, I do see instances where, you know, they're using AMOLED screens and, you know, there's all these visual technologies that are becoming much cheaper, much easier to embed, much thinner, much smaller. I see in the future proper controllers coming about. I just don't necessarily see the designers really taking advantage of them. I see a lot of these boutique manufacturers that are making new products that are not out yet, that are coming out. And even those boutique products, I look at and I scratch my head thinking, who the hell wants, you know, a synthesizer with 94 buttons on it and no knobs and no faders, you know, or, you know, I see things like that happening, and it makes me really wonder, you know, are these people power users or are they just designers, you know? Like, how many of these people are really actually day-to-day using this stuff and getting frustrated? Because I know that I'm not alone in these thoughts, you know? I visit on the Producers Hangout all the time, and I talk to people, and these are not, you know, narrow concepts that I'm talking about. This is bulk thinking. So it's frustrating.
This is why we need to get more developers into the discussion. Like, I know we have a couple IKA guys. I think I've seen Rob pop in there once or twice. Seen some of the Native Instrument guys too, but some of the Reason guys.
Yeah, we have
we need to get more of them. We have plenty of them.
There's quite a few, and I've even talked to quite a few, and I'm not picking on any one particular company. I'm talking about the industry as a whole, really, because it's this thing where this, you know, of course there's always going to be a point where people have to decide, you know, cost savings for the ability to price low and sell more, that kind of thing. But there's got to be a breaking point where people finally decide to just do it right, you know, and see how, like, look at Moog synthesizers, for instance, and, you know, the build quality is very good, and, you know, it's the price point is higher. It's not what I would consider crazy boutique prices for a Moog synthesizer, but their price point is definitely higher than a lot of other gear out there. But people buy it because it's built right. You know, they or at least they expect it to be. Their software editor still sucks, but, you know, they buy it because it feels right in the hand and it works right. There's got to be a point where, you know, these software companies and MIDI controller companies take that same approach and say, let's build a boutique MIDI controller that actually is, you know, more encompassing, and let's go to that. I mean, Machine Studio is close in the fact, and MPC Renaissance is close in the fact that you're talking about $1,000 pieces of MIDI gear.
What about Nectar?
And Nectar too, but again, we're talking about, are these people using these things? And are, you know, if you're grabbing a knob, why am I looking over here to see what the knob does? Like, really? You know, at certain point, you know, if I'm working with Machine and I want to automate a knob over here, why am I having to jump through hoops to do it, you know? Like, rant over.
Money.
I'm with you.
Well, I'm with you. I hear it too.
I mean, we can all agree that this is this is something that shouldn't be happening in this day and age, right?
I think if we could get them to agree on maybe setting like a standard MIDI CC for everything, I think a lot of these problems would go away on their own.
I don't think that can happen, unfortunately. Just because there are certain MIDI CCs that are fairly standard for that reason, but there's so many different things that you can do out there. And also, I love MIDI, and I think it's fantastic for so many different reasons, but I don't necessarily think that MIDI is always the answer. I think that you have to have an answer to MIDI, but I think if you're going to really dive into these kinds of things, I don't necessarily think that MIDI is going to be the answer for it because of how many parameters are in nowadays synths. When you're dealing with hardware, you're limited by how much you can put into hardware, but when you're dealing with software and you've got something like, let's say, Decam Synth Squad or Massive or whatever, and you've got all these submenus and things, it gets really... but
Ken,
hey, at least it's getting better.
Ken, let me ask you a question. How do you feel about touchscreen controllers?
They're fun for XY pads. They're fun for supplementing, but they're terrible for dedicated if you're doing other things. Like, I don't want to necessarily always be having to stare at a touchscreen while I'm working on it. It's the same thing with live performers who look like they're checking email. The iPad has become the same kind of thing where you have to stare directly at it. You have to be right where you are. There's no tactile feedback, until we come out with touchscreens that can, and I've seen patents for this stuff. This is not, not doable, but until they come out with touchscreens that can morph their surface to where you can feel what you're touching, it will never replace the actual hands-on feel, Now, if I could, let's say I had, I love using TB MIDI on my iPad, and I'm going to pull it up here just so I can give you a for instance. I love using it, but I have to stare at it. Now, if they could do something where the screen itself just maybe made some bumps and things on it, to where I could get an idea as to what I was touching, maybe some very fine bumps when I was touching a button, and maybe some lines when I was touching a fader or something. That would be wonderful. I'd be all for that. But if you're using something like this, and I'm not looking at it, it's like, okay, I don't know where I am, So I have to be staring directly at it. But if there was a raised surface right here as I was moving it, which, like I said, there's patents out on this stuff already. We just haven't seen it hit store shelves yet. Once that happens, oh man. And I just hope the latency is low. Because oh man, I'm not opposed to using, other products, but man, using Android touchscreens sucks for music purposes. It's horrible. Yep. I latency on everything. If you've got, more than, 13 or 20 milliseconds of latency, then
that's a wrap.
It needs to be, that's not okay. So
it's 5 minutes.
All right, so we're going to wrap up the show. I want to say thank you to everybody for coming and yapping and hearing me vent and watching me fix crap. I want to say...
I'm glad I was invited this time, because they did
Dear Moog,
on me last week.
I do want to say, Dear Moog, if you're listening,
help Mike out.
Mike, Silent Cipher at padbangers.com, needs his sub 37, so if you guys could expedite that process. We're sick and tired of ragging on him for watching our friends get their sub 37s before him, even though he ordered his a while ago.
They got those
so shout out to William McKnight of themachinewarehouse.com for getting a sub 37 just willy-nilly before Mike did and shoving it in his face. I thought that was hilarious. Another shout out to Moog. Amos, if you're listening, please, please, please fix the disconnect issues with the sub fatty, and hopefully that doesn't happen with the sub 37 with the editor. And yeah, so I'll pass it off to Pete.
I just want to thank you guys for having me here. And I want to wish Obi from IK Multimedia a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Obi.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
I just want to say, legalize it in your state. If there's a referendum, if there's an initiative, if there's any type of vote on your ballot this coming November, please vote for legalization.
Yes. Seattle gets the win.
There's a lot of good
happen
tax
here.
money to be brought in. and make
really
that
well,
legalization money go to schools. How about that?
I like it.
Schools, not bombs.
Don't get all bomb on me right now. Legalize it. Legalize it.
I'm going to pass off to Mike, badbangers.com. Anti-Moog having activist.
Yeah. Good show, guys. Check out the Facebook group, facebook.com/group/The Producers Hangout, all in one word, and join us over there. We're almost reaching the 4,000 members. That's crazy, and we really enjoying the group. So head over to it if you're not already joined and be part of it. And drop beats, not bombs.
Yeah, there you go.
And
Kev West of KevWestBeats.com.
What up? Thanks for the guys. Great show. Glad to be invited this time because Ken did it without me last time. Flux was hating on me.
And I still am.
So I hope everybody has a good week. Again, make beats, not bombs. And don't buy Complete 10 because it's terrible. I'm joking. But,
actually, I've been playing with some new stuff lately, and I gotta say, I've been liking some certain things.
I'm not impressed. I haven't been impressed with much of anything this year. There's like a couple things that I've already talked about, but that machine update impresses me.
Well, it better be more than just what was listed. I'll tell you that.
It's free. It's free, so I'm good with it.
It's a dot update. It's gonna be free. The only updates that Native Instruments ever makes you pay for is full number updates.
Yeah, that's most companies.
And it's only 2.2, so whatever. But anyway, so fluxwithit.com. Got a new expansion pack coming out. Fine line expansion should be on store shelves very soon. 5.5 gigs of machine goodness for your face. So
great expansion.
I was playing with it this morning. It's really good.
Yes, really, really good expansion.
See, and they're only saying that because they don't review stuff that they don't like.
Exactly.
Yeah, so if you don't,
if I don't like it.
if you don't see a review of it up on Kev West's site, you know he's hating on me. All right, guys, have a great Sunday, and we'll see you guys next week.
Go Seahawks.
Peace out.
Go Eagles.